I'm going to talk a little bit more focused about emotional intelligence because you cover a lot of things in the book.
Hmm.
And I zoned in on the emotional intelligence component because we haven't really spent a lot of time talk. It comes up periodically, obviously, because I mean it's emotional intelligence, and it is like one of the three core things that like virtually every leadership study ever has found as like what distinguishes somebody from being a leader or not. And so I want to shift you a little bit to getting some of your insights about emotional intelligence. And so we probably should start with just like really just quickly explaining what emotional intelligence is. Would you mind doing that?
Oh no, absolutely. It's without doubt the number one skill set for a highly effective, insightful leader, without doubt. We expanded the term emotional intelligence to include um, uh, Daniel Goleman's work on social intelligence.
What's
Is
the
what
difference between the two?
well, the the original emotional intelligence, talked about the internal self-awareness, being aware, and then emotional regulation, managing your emotions, which is all very important. But then there's the social intelligence side, and this is being aware of other people's
Yeah.
social awareness. Like I'm standing in line at a grocery store, and you're in front of me with 50 groceries, and I'm behind you with one. Are you aware of me? Can I go before you lay down all your groceries? That's social awareness, or the lack of. And then there's the social skills that are necessary. Things like empathy, perspective taking, and skill. Being organizationally savvy. So
Mhm.
our model that we work from, we created our own model. So the first half of the day is on EI, emotional intelligence, and the second half of the day is social intelligence. So social emotional intelligence, which basically is being aware of your own feelings. Being aware and attend and once you're aware of your feelings, you know, managing your emotions, right? Emotional
Right.
regulation. And then is social awareness. It's being aware of other people's needs and who they are, what they need, and attending to them. Being aware of body language,
Right. That you
nonverbal communication, and then to connect empathically by perspective taking and things like that. To me, that's so. It's those are the elements of a socially emotional intelligent individual.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
it's interesting because I'd seen the book Social Intelligence, and I was like, because I obviously recognize the name. Uh, he Goldman, is it Goldman?
Daniel Goleman. Uh-huh.
Daniel Goldman. He's the one who originally wrote the book Emotional Intelligence, and so he like if he comes out with another book, you do kind of perk up. You're like, okay. And so I was actually I it came across the other day, and I was like, I probably need to follow up on exactly like what's different on that. But so it's
Well,
good to know that I've been following up. I just didn't know I was.
it's all the same. It's all the same concept, and it's critical. And this is, if you would ask me, Keith, if there's one skill set that that makes a highly insightful leader from the work you have done, without
Yeah.
doubt, it is to strengthen a person's social and emotional intelligence. And all the research, as you know, it's off the reactors. A socially emotional intelligent leader makes $29,000 more annually than a person with low social emotional intelligence, for example.
That's pretty
To
good.
get,
I hadn't heard that stuff.
oh yeah, to get into Harvard's business school, the competencies they look for are all in the area of social emotional intelligence.
Hmm.
And what it was about 10 years ago to get into medical school, they finally, about 10 years ago,
Oh,
put
good.
in
They needed to do that.
oh yeah, an interpersonal piece in there, a training. So, I mean, I'm reminded of a surgeon who I coached who came to me from a hospital who in the OR, ripped the phone out of the wall in frustration and threw it across the room at the nurse. How would you like to be the patient on that gurney?
Yeah.
Not me.
I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's been to a doctor and had them lecture me, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm not taking you seriously anymore. You kind of don't
You
have a
know,
right.
when you knew where I get their attention when I coached, or for years I did in a local hospital, the behavioral medicine lectures for years. And yeah, they're sitting like nice students and taking it all in. And until I show them that physicians with higher social emotional intelligence are sued less, less
Oh, yeah,
malpractice
not surprised.
compared to all right, next, treat you as this transactional interaction, and like you're a number. Where you at?
Well, and the other thing that I've noticed, this is just anecdotal, um, but with talking to the people throughout my life with doctors, whether they think their doctor is good, like there's such an asymmetry of information and the body is so complex that a patient can't really tell if their doctor's all that good. And so how they judge them is, do I like them?
And by the way, research shows that female physicians are liked a little bit more than the male physician, because female physician is shown to to create a little more rapport, more interpersonal kind of interaction compared to males. But you said something earlier that links to, I think, part of that, the theory behind what we're talking about right now, and that is, look, to get into medical school and go through medical school and even law school, but there's some similarities between the two.
High status. It's high status. So you have to be very smart IQ wise. And then you have to go ahead. You finish it.
You're on the same trajectory as I am. See, but to go through in the study, to make it to the top of your class, to be sure you get through medical school, is all an individual journey. Being the best of the best, do what you can do, beat somebody else, be the top of the class. Everything's so individual, and they get through. And so individually, they're great at what they have accomplished. Get through medical school, law school, and what happens? They're then thrown into a team. And that's where that individual contributor, mentality that we talked about earlier. And I think that's a challenge for many physicians and lawyers, making that transition from a highly individual state of mind and thinking that got them through school, now thrown into working together as a team, So this is where I've coached many physicians and lawyers in helping make that transition, because it's so individualized. So just because you're great at what you do, as we said earlier, doesn't make you a good, high-performing team leader.
They realize that their vehicle is their brain, and if they tend to be high achievers, and when that becomes like your source of movement or like part of your core identity, you can get into a situation where like you think your brain is going to basically get you everywhere, and whatever you need to do, you rely on your brain. But actually, the social is also a vehicle, and you need to. So we become like, there's a tendency, I think, to become over reliant on just being the smartest person or one of the smartest people, and neglecting the social elements. And you actually have to like step back, because like that's worked. It works for a very long time.
Not only it works for a biological reason. See, what you're bringing out, which is awesome, is our neuroscience, and the brain science that in the last 20 years has taught all of us, and so much more, and more is coming. There's, as you're bringing up, there's different parts of the brain.
Right.
And I like to think in terms of what Kahneman talked about: system 1 thinking and system 2 thinking. System 1 part of the brain is the emotional part of our brain, the primitive part of our brain. All right. And then, there's the other different parts, but the logical part, what we call system two. So if we just stay there for a moment, okay, those are the two major systems at work. So you are right. So we come out of school, and our, with a full of system two, all this logic, rational, academic thinking. Yeah, very important. And this for years. We studied the brain going back to not me, but back in the 20s and 30s, we thought that what made people smart and successful must be the size of their brain.
Oh yeah, they spent a lot of time measuring brains.
Well, that didn't pan out. It's like, so that, but we studied the brain, and the brain was studied, and then all this, all the different tests trying to figure out what we have found. And this is where the whole area of emotional intelligence began. It's these two sides of the brain working together that makes us smarter, better decision makers, more innovative and creative when two sides are working together. And what we have found that the system one part of our brain, our emotional brain, works 80,000 times faster than our logical brain, the system two. And so that's why, for example, you ever meet somebody and immediately you like them or you dislike them?
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with the logical part of your brain.
No, you're picking up on.
Oh, yeah. We pick up, and this is what the neuroscience has taught us more and more. This is the basis of connection or disconnection, because our system two thinking, the logical brain, is very lazy. Very lazy. It takes a lot of mental energy to dig deep. So what it does when we're faced with a problem, it goes to what it already knows. We've done it this way, so let's continue to do it this way, which is a problem or can be a problem. So to your very point, in the different parts of the brain, it's when the system one and system two work together, makes us smarter, wiser, better decision makers. And yes, we want to listen to our system one because that works so much quicker and it's great. It leads to connections and trust and everything else. However, there's the downside. It can lead to isms, all the different races of sex, and because we make judgments.
It's a category system. I mean, like that's the lazy part of the brain is the heuristics. And so, yes. That means that we're falling into stereotypes pretty much immediately.
And that comes from system one thinking.
Right.
So we have to be aware of it. But there's other parts that are really, and just as we know, the system two is lazy, but at best, as human beings, it's when we work together, our social and emotional intelligence.